The morning sun had barely risen over Lagos when Zainab was already knee-deep in the rhythm of survival. The generator in their cramped Mushin compound groaned its usual protest. She stirred the OG on the stove with one hand and scanned her email on a cracked Android screen with the other. Her younger brother Tolu strolled past in his school uniform, not bothering with a thank you as he grabbed the lunch she packed. Her mother sat in the living room shouting at a Yoruba soap opera and sipping Lipton tea Zainab had paid for. Zainab's day was a cycle. Wake at 5 a.m., feed everyone, take a keki to her first job at a printing press in Oshodi, then hustle her way to a night shift at a small hotel in Ikeja. Yet not once had her sacrifices been recognized. When her younger sister got admission into Unilag, her uncles praised their late father's legacy, but forgot that Zainab had paid every kobo. In family meetings, her mother would talk proudly of my son Tolu, the future lawyer, while Zainab was dismissed with, "She's just a girl, she'll marry and go." She hid her exhaustion well. Her long braids were always neat, her clothes clean even if faded. She smiled politely at nosy neighbors, declining offers from men who saw her as either desperate or disposable. Inside, though, she was cracking. That morning, as she locked the gate behind her and stepped into the chaos of Lagos life, Zainab whispered to herself, "One day they'll see me. One day." But she no longer knew if she believed it. That day, her world would start to change with a flat tire, a stranger, and a question that no one had asked her in years. "Are you okay?" The afternoon sun blazed mercilessly over the third mainland bridge as Zainab's tired eyes blinked against the glare. She had borrowed her colleague's old Toyota Corolla to deliver some urgent documents to a hotel client in Victoria Island, something well outside her normal duties at the front desk. She didn't complain, she never did. But halfway across the bridge, the car jerked violently and lurched to a stop. Flat tire. She stepped out and stared helplessly at the sagging rear wheel, cars honking and whizzing past her in a blur of noise. Lagos was not kind to stranded women, especially not ones wearing secondhand office wear and carrying the weight of a family on their back. She checked her phone. One bar, no data, no airtime. Typical. She sighed and leaned against the hot metal of the car, sweat dampening her shirt, frustration threatening to spill from her chest. That's when he pulled up. A sleek black SUV rolled to a stop a few feet away. The window came down and a deep, calm voice called out, "Madam, you need help?" She hesitated. Lagos was full of strange people with smooth words and dangerous intentions. But something in the man's eyes, steady, respectful kind, calmed her. He stepped out, tall, dressed in crisp white caftan, the kind worn effortlessly by men who knew who they were. "I'm Dimeji," he said, smiling. "Let me help you with the tire." She watched as he removed his agbada, rolled up his sleeves, and got to work without waiting for approval. No awkward flirtation, no condescension, just quiet efficiency. 15 minutes later, the spare tire was fixed, and she was back behind the wheel. She expected him to drive off. Instead, he handed her a cold bottle of water and said, "You look like you carry too much alone. I hope someone sees that." That night, Zainab lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. No one had ever spoken to her like that, not as a servant, not as an obligation, but as a person. And in that moment, she wasn't just tired, she was curious. Zainab tried to push the encounter out of her mind, but Dimeji lingered like the scent of fresh rain after Harmattan. The name echoed through her daily routine when she queued for the bus at Owelegba, when she printed invoices at work, even when her mother asked again why she hadn't sent more money that week. It had been 3 days since the flat tire, and yet his words refused to fade. "I hope someone sees that." She didn't even know his last name. She hadn't asked for his number, and he hadn't offered. It made their brief meeting feel even more surreal, like a scene from one of those Nollywood films she mocked for being unrealistic. Men like that didn't just appear and disappear in real life, at least not hers. But Lagos had its own way of weaving stories. On Thursday, Zainab was asked to help set up a conference room at the hotel where she worked for a private business meeting. As she placed bottles of water on the mahogany table, her breath caught in her throat. There he was, Dimeji, seated at the far end, reviewing papers with another man. He looked up, met her eyes, and smiled with quiet recognition. He waited until the meeting ended before walking over. "Zainab, right?" he asked. She blinked, surprised he remembered her name. "Yes," she replied cautiously. "You work here?" he asked. She nodded. "I do almost everything, actually." He didn't pry. Instead, he offered her his business card. "I work with a development firm," he explained. "We're always looking for detail-oriented people. If you ever want to talk about opportunities or just want a coffee, call me." That night, Zainab didn't sleep. Not because she was worried about bills or her mother's nagging or the rent due next week, but because for the first time in a long time, someone had seen her not as a burden, not as a girl child, but as something more. Zainab stared at Dimeji's card for days, moving it from her wallet to her drawer and back again. Her instincts were cautious. Lagos was full of men who dangled hope as bait, but something about Dimeji's sincerity felt different. Still, she had responsibilities. Dreams weren't luxury items she could afford. Her mother's voice echoed constantly. "You be woman, your place na to manage, not to chase upandan dreams." Saturday came with a mountain of chores. While her siblings scrolled through TikTok and complained about food variety, Zainab hand-washed everyone's clothes and trekked 2 streets to refill cooking gas. Her mother offered no help, only judgment. "You don't even dress like woman way fit Mary," she muttered. "Always wearing man trousers and carrying dust on your face." Zainab didn't respond. She never did. The weight was getting heavier. That evening, she finally texted Dimeji. "Hi, this is Zainab from the hotel. I'm not sure what I want yet, but thank you for seeing me." To her surprise, the reply came within minutes. "Thank you for texting. Let's start with lunch. No pressure, no interviews, just talk." They met at a modest restaurant in Surulere, not some pretentious spot in Lekki. Dimeji came in jeans and a polo shirt, no show-off, no airs. He asked about her work, her family, her dreams, and for once, Zainab spoke freely. She told him about how she gave up university admission to feed her siblings, how she taught herself bookkeeping just to keep her job, how she loved photography but hadn't touched a camera in years. He listened, truly listened. When she finished, he smiled gently. "You're incredible, Zainab. You've done more with less than most people do with everything." And just like that, something shifted inside her. A dam cracked. She didn't cry, but she felt the pressure in her chest ease slightly. Maybe, just maybe, she was more than what they told her. Zainab didn't tell her family about Dimeji, not yet. Theirs was not a home that welcomed change. Her mother, Masab, believed that a woman's only goal should be marriage to a man who could manage her. Ambition, friendship, and men who respected boundaries were foreign concepts. So Zainab kept Dimeji to herself, like a fragile glass ornament hidden in a house full of careless hands. Over the next few weeks, she and Dimeji met often quiet dinners, long walks at Freedom Park, lazy chats about books, politics, and photography. He never pressured her. Instead, he encouraged her to explore parts of herself she had buried long ago. He even gifted her a second-hand digital camera on her birthday, with a note that read, "To help you remember the world sees you too." But the deeper she fell into this gentle love, the more guilt crept in. She was still sending her entire salary home. Her siblings now expected it without thanks. Her mother constantly criticized her appearance and her unmarried status. When Zainab brought up taking a weekend course in photography, her mother scoffed. "Wetin you day chase? Husband no come. Na camera you unmarry." The final straw came one rainy Friday night. She got home late after helping Dimeji with a community outreach program in Ahigunle. She was soaked, tired, and beaming with a quiet joy. But the moment she entered the house, her mother exploded. "So you now day waka about like a shawl? Which useless man keep you outside?" Zainab stood frozen. For the first time, she didn't shrink. "The man respects me, something you've never done," she replied quietly. The silence that followed was thick with shock. She had never answered back. Not once. But that night something broke, and something else began to rise in its place. Zainab woke up to a tense silence. The morning air in the compound felt heavier than usual, as if her defiance from the night before still hung in the walls. Her mother didn't speak to her, Not when she made breakfast, not when she left for work. Tolu and her younger sister Bisola avoided eye contact, their loyalty clearly with their mother. It stung, but Zainab was done pretending. At work, she pushed through her shift at the hotel, distracted by the storm brewing at home and the peace she felt around Dimeji. He had been her lifeline, her listener. That afternoon, he texted her, "You okay? I'm around if you need to breathe." She smiled, a soft relief washing over her. That evening, they sat in his car outside her compound, engine off, the city noise humming in the background. He didn't ask her to explain. He just let her talk. "I feel like I'm being punished for not dying inside," she said. "They all treat me like I owe them something, like I wasn't the one who kept this family from falling apart." Dimeji looked at her, eyes steady. "You don't owe anyone your silence. You've given enough. The question is, when will you start choosing yourself?" His words stayed with her. That weekend, Zainab made a decision. She reduced the monthly money she sent home and enrolled in a beginner photography class in Ikeya. The moment her mother found out, the fight erupted again. "So you want to abandon your family for camera?" she screamed. "You think one useless man goes save you?" But Zainab no longer trembled. "I am not abandoning anyone," she replied. "I'm just saving myself this time." It was the first time she didn't feel guilty for putting herself first. And though her family's coldness grew, so did her sense of self. And for once, that felt like enough. The photography class was held in a modest art space tucked behind Allen Avenue in Ikeya. The walls were covered in portraits, faces of Lagos in motion, market women in Balogun, bus conductors at Obalenda, children bathing in rainwater in Ahigunle. As Zainab stepped inside that room, camera strapped around her neck, she felt something she hadn't felt in years: freedom. She was the oldest in the class, surrounded by fresh-faced students from private universities. But she didn't mind. She listened, absorbed, experimented. Her fingers trembled the first time she manually adjusted ISO and shutter speed. But when the instructor reviewed her first street photos and said, "There's soul in your shots," she smiled like a girl discovering her own reflection for the first time. Meanwhile, at home, the tension continued to thicken. Her mother barely spoke to her. Bisola mocked her silently, accusing her of feeling too big. Tolu didn't even say thank you when she paid for his WOEC registration. But Zainab no longer gave her energy to their complaints. She was learning to hold space for herself. One Sunday, Dimeji invited her to a small art exhibition in Lekki. It wasn't flashy or elitist, just raw Lagos talent on display. He introduced her to photographers, NGO organizers, and storytellers. One of them, a documentary director named Ifeoma, was impressed by the photos Zainab showed in her old Canon. "You see Lagos differently," she said. "You don't just take pictures, you see people. That's rare." That night, Zainab stood in front of a bathroom mirror and stared at herself. Not the tired housemaid they always saw, not the disposable daughter, but the woman who had fed an entire household and still dared to dream. For the first time, she whispered it aloud. "I am not just a girl." And she believed it. The rain came heavy that night, hammering rooftops across Mushin like it was trying to wash something away. Zainab sat at the edge of her bed, camera in hand, scrolling through the photos from her latest assignment, a mini project documenting single mothers in Agege. The raw emotion in those images mirrored her own life. Struggle, sacrifice, silence. And yet, there was beauty too, resilience captured through her lens. She heard a sharp knock at the door. It was her mother, eyes hard, voice colder than the weather outside. "Zainab, I heard you went to Lekki again with that man. You dey forget who you be." Zainab sighed, tired of the accusations. "I haven't forgotten who I am, Mama. I'm just tired of being treated like nothing because I was born female." Her mother's eyes flared. "Everything you have, this roof, the food you chop, you think it appear from heaven?" Zainab stood. "I put that food on the table. I paid the rent when Daddy died. I paid your hospital bills. I gave up my school for this family. But you only ever saw what I wasn't." The words hit like thunder. For once, her mother didn't have a response. Only silence. Tolu stood in the hallway, frozen. Bisola peeped from the kitchen, pretending not to hear. But they all heard. every word. Zainab picked up her bag. I'm not running away, Mama. I'm stepping into the life I built with my own hands. I still love you, but I won't drown here anymore. She moved out that weekend. Dimeji helped her find a small studio apartment in Ogaду. Nothing fancy, but it was hers. Quiet, clean, free. And in that space, with nothing but her camera and her courage, Zainab finally exhaled. She had lost the approval of her family, but gained something far more powerful herself. The first morning in her new studio apartment was eerily quiet. No shouting, no pots clanging, no demands waiting at her door. Zainab lay on her mattress on the floor, staring at the ceiling, unsure whether to cry or smile. It was strange, this freedom. It didn't feel like victory yet, but it was a beginning. Over the following weeks, Zainab found herself growing in ways she never imagined. Her photos were gaining attention online. Ifeoma, the documentary director from the art event, invited her to join a visual storytelling project focused on women's survival in urban Nigeria. It paid modestly, but more than anything, it gave her a platform. For once, her lens wasn't just capturing life, it was shaping how others saw it. Dimeji remained by her side, not as a savior, but as a partner. He never tried to fix her. Instead, he supported her choices, encouraged her growth, and gave her space to fail and learn. One evening after a long shoot, he met her at a buka in Ohodu. As they shared amala and ibedu, he looked at her with that same calm intensity and said, "You are exactly who you're meant to be, Zainab. And if you ever forget it, I'll remind you." She smiled, not from flattery, but from truth. His love didn't complete her. It celebrated her. Meanwhile, whispers from home reached her. Her brother had failed his exams. Her sister was always out late. Their mother had begun to ask neighbors if Zainab had truly left for good. She had, but she wasn't bitter, just done. One Saturday, Zainab received news that her photo essay, Mothers of the Market, had been accepted into a regional art festival in Ghana. She stared at the email, stunned, and then cried not from sadness, but release. For the first time in her life, she wasn't surviving. She was becoming. The air in Accra was warm and welcoming, heavy with spice and the soft hum of street music. Zainab stood inside the open-air gallery, surrounded by strangers admiring her work, 12 framed photos, capturing the grit, grace, and quiet power of working-class women in Lagos. Each shot told a story, and every story carried a piece of her soul. She wore a simple Ankara dress and a scarf tied around her braids. Her camera slung across her chest. Dimeji stood proudly by her side, shaking hands with curators and artists, but never once stealing her shine. She had invited him not as her date, but as her witness to the life she had fought for, and finally claimed. After her panel discussion, a young girl no older than 16 approached her. "Auntie Zainab, your pictures make me want to pick up a camera. People say I talk too much and act too strong, but now I think maybe that's not a bad thing." Zainab knelt, smiled, and touched the girl's hand gently. "It's not a bad thing at all. They only say that because they're scared of women who know their own strength." That night, as the festival lights flickered and the laughter of other artists filled the air, Zainab stood on a balcony overlooking the city. She thought of her mother, of the house in Mushin, of all the years she gave without question. There was still pain there, still distance, but she no longer needed their validation. She had her own mirror now, and when she looked into it, she saw not a girl child, not a burden, not a second-class sibling, but a whole woman. She took Dimeji's hand, not because she needed him to hold her up, but because she wanted someone to walk beside her. Zainab had not just found love, she had found herself. And that finally was more than enough. The end. What's your take? Zainab's journey from overlooked daughter to empowered woman is one many can relate to. What part of her story touched you the most? Have you ever felt like you were just something until you discovered your worth? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about gender roles, self-worth, and breaking free from expectations. If you enjoyed this story, share it with someone who needs to be reminded they are more than enough.